Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I have another interview for you today. I got to sit down with, sorry, I don't want to get their names wrong. I got to sit down with Marcus Flemmings and Ellie Bindman to talk about their new movie, Blonde Purple. This one was really cool and kind of took me by surprise. Not the interview itself, but Blonde Purple. I'll just do a quick rundown. I plan on having a review video up soon. It's a heist type movie based on American 90s cinema, but as you'll hear, Marcus Flemmings is English. So is Ellie Bindman, actually, which took me by surprise because in the movie, you have no clue she has an accent, so props to her. But it's this really awesome movie that does feel like it was inspired and would even take place right alongside all the other 90s heist movies, but it doesn't feel like a copy of any of them. And to me, that was the biggest thing, because I've seen so many movies that want to be a version of Reservoir Dogs, but it just comes off as a cheap version of Reservoir Dogs, where Blonde Purple pays some homage to Reservoir Dogs, but it never feels like it wants to be or is trying to be a discount version of it. It was a really cool movie. I'm actually planning on rewatching it, which is why the review video isn't out yet, because here at So Wizard Podcast, we're putting together our best of 2021, and it's a serious contender. I really enjoyed the movie. So it's always awesome to talk to creative people, even more so when it's work that I'm already a fan of, because then I get to pick their brain, a little bit selfishly. I get to dive into the movie and ask the questions that I want to ask and hear about how it came to be. So enjoy this interview with Marcus Flemmings and Ellie Bindman of Blonde Purple. All right. Hey, everyone. Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with Ellie Bindman and Marcus Flemmings to talk about their new movie, Blonde Purple. Sorry. Yeah. I kept doing that all morning, and I was determined not to when I hit record.
You practiced all day.
Probably practiced it wrong all day. Well, anyway, thank you guys for coming on. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you for having us.
Definitely. So I guess the place to start would be, Marcus, you're the writer-director. What was the spark of inspiration for Blonde Purple?
Quite a few things, really. So I love 90s heist films. I love 70s films as well. So the film kind of amalgamates all of those themes. But also last year during the lockdown, a lot of political unrest, and I think a lot of that embedded itself into the script as well. And ultimately, my past two films were kind of political, but quite arty as well. I wanted to make something a bit more fun, that incorporated elements of my own style, but also had elements of genre, put that kind of, the kind of standard genre going through it as well. So that's kind of where it all came from. And then thankfully managed to cast wonderful Ellie, and she really took the lead character, one of the lead characters, to another plateau.
Very cool. So, Ellie, what was your first connection with the project? Like, how to come across your desk?
So I just, as any project comes in, I just had an audition come through from my agent, and it was kind of, as it always is at the beginning, it was like a very, very brief kind of information. I think I literally had the character's name. I think it was a different name at that point. I don't think she was called Madison originally.
It was, it was.
Something. It was something like that.
Something crap.
That was all I had. So I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I could kind of tell that she was going to be quite like an emotional character. And then, it was just a self-tape. And then I came in for an in-person recall. And then it was a couple more self-tapes after that. And then, into the beast that was.
Very cool. It seems like you guys moved fast.
Yes.
Yeah,
we did. Yeah,
go ahead.
No, please go for it.
I was just going to say, watching it, I assumed you wrote it 2017, 2018, filmed it 2019, put it together during COVID, and now it's out. But you moved way faster than that.
No, I started writing it, I think, August or September-ish. And when I start writing, I get really immersed in the environment of the script and the notion and everything. So you literally maybe 4 to 6 weeks of non-stop writing, wake up, write, wake up, write, wake up, write, non-stop. And then as soon as it's finished, I was like, okay, I'm filming it. Because I feel like when you as a creative, sometimes you can kind of lull around and go, oh, I might do this, I might do that, or I might finish it, I might not shoot it, I might do that. I like to do the opposite, which is sometimes detrimental, which is just everything fast, like shoot, film, cast, bang, 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 edit, done. So between September and March this year is when it was all kind of wrote, filmed, edited, and then marketed for sales and sales agents.
Wow. That's one of the fastest indies I've ever heard of.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm still suffering now, so I wouldn't recommend it.
Ellie, did you feel the pain of that speed? Like, was it really long shoot days? And
no, well, they were long shoot days, but that was due to the length of our scenes rather than it just being kind of like crammed into one. But no, I loved it. This sounds so daft, and I say this every time, but the busier I am, the happier I am. Like when I'm constantly working, I'd rather be just like drained and get like all my energy and give like the best performance than doing it in like little jibs and drabs here and there and kind of coming in and out. And we had so many conversations about that because obviously we were shooting in a lockdown, in a pandemic. Like it was near to not being able to do that, and it was looking at having to do it in little jibs and drabs, and we were trying so hard to get it as consecutive as we could, because I think from what I agree that it's so intense, and our characters have to kind of grow together throughout the film. So we as actors almost need to grow together and get more comfortable with each other and have as in Ellie and Julian, our relationship build so that Madison and Wyatt could have their relationship kind of blossom. So yeah, it was very intense. I think those days in the bank were like 12 hours, I want to say. They were long. Yeah. It was just an incredible atmosphere, like magic. It was actual magic.
That's really cool. And since it does take place in such a condensed timeline, I guess that makes a lot of sense. You just want to stick with it.
Yeah.
And I imagine for both being a character and writing a fast-paced script and keeping to those characters for both of you, that a condensed timeline, while I'm sure it was stressful during it, you could just stay in that headspace. You didn't have to walk away and come back.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, between September to the end of December, when we finished filming it and I started writing it. So yeah, in that headspace, I was American for those months. I was a fully fledged American, and even after that, it kind of lingers on. I don't know if it's the same for Ellie, but like even 2 months after that, I'm still like the dialogue still in my head and the characters still in my head and the way the characters feel still in my head. And I think it's really weird as a writer because you have to become a schizophrenic and you have to become each character and think to yourself, how would each character behave in each scenario? So you literally stay in those characters for such a long time as well.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
Like, you never put like a character down when you've finished them. Like there's always a couple of months after where you
hang on.
That's me. Don't worry.
Sorry.
But like come in and influence your kind of natural life choices, because you are in that for such a long period of time. And so for me, I think I was cast beginning of October, I want to say. And then it was like rehearsals in like end of October to November, and then filming in the December. So it was those 3 months of just like Madison. And then I couldn't like put her down, which was, I'd done so much like intensive work on her that I couldn't just wrap after Christmas and be like, yeah, that's it, I'm not thinking about her again. Like she was always in like the back of my mind in a weird way.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. And that is something I wanted to ask is you mentioned that for those months you were American. Being a London-made set, or at least there was London in the title card, I'm not sure exactly where, but being all, I don't know if English is the right term. I have an English friend, and somebody said he was from the UK, and he got really mad about it. So, but why did you choose to make it all American?
Sorry, you broke off the end there. Did you say, why did I choose to make it all American?
Yeah.
Oh, I think in terms of the story, in terms of the theme, I think Americans have cooler voices. So I always feel like when you're shooting a short film or any kind of film, feature film, when you start hearing British voices, you think period drama, or you think like a council state, really gritty, train spotting-esque kind of film. So I love American accents, and it just elevates the drama a bit more. And I think the themes as well are very prevalent in America. So at the time, obviously, the incident with George Floyd happened in America, and I felt like my knowledge of American history from slavery till present day is quite vast. So I really felt like the themes and the ideas really kind of were perfect for American environment. And also there are some British characters as well. So it's kind of like a nondescript location, but obviously everyone's kind of American at the same time.
Yeah, I found it interesting. And I guess it kind of makes sense with the movies you're calling back to.
Yeah,
the ones that kind of inspired you. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, obviously, the films that influenced me were all American. There was no British heist. I think, Snatch and
I was going to say, Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, exactly. You got Guy Ritchie, who kind of flying the flag for that kind of genre. But apart from that, it was really, you had your Tarantinos, your Paul Thomas Andersons, and in the 70s you had your Sidney Lumet's and Al Pacino, and so I've been very Americanized as a film watcher from a young age. And I guess when I write characters, a lot of the time they do have American slang or voices. So it was a good chance to explore that kind of character work as well, because I always feel like Americans are a lot more heightened in terms of the way they are and in terms of the drama as well. If we did the same script as a British script, I don't think it would have the same impact.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ellie, was doing an American accent something you were looking to do, or was it maybe more of a, oh no, I have to do this?
No, it's the complete opposite. It was something that, as a British actor, they come in very few and far between, because usually if you go up for an American role or whatever, you could get down to the final 3, final 2, whatever, and then it could be you as the British actress, and then you could have an American actress, and they will most likely always go for the American actress because it's less money, it's less time, etc. It's just easier. So they do come so few and far between. So yeah, when I was offered this role, I was just like, what? Oh my god! And then it was just a lot of work. I worked with a dialect coach who was fabulous, and she really, really helped. And kind of, it was just fascinating to learn more about like intonation and such like specific like phonetics of it, rather than just everyone go, yeah, I can do an American accent. But then you actually think you can, and then you learn about it and kind of break it down. You're like, oh, okay, that's something I never even thought about, because you just try and do it and hope for the best. But
wasn't Taylor Swift your
Yes.
Taylor Swift was your thing.
Yes,
you're copying her to a degree. Yeah.
He asked me to have like a American celebrity who I kind of thought my like tone of voice was like similar to. And I went with Taylor Swift. So it was like watching a lot of interviews that she did, or kind of picking out like specific sentences and copying them and then translating them into the script. So yeah, it was a lot of background work, but so worth it.
Wow, yeah. And I guess it's a big tool to have in your tool belt now.
Yeah.
Completely. And thankfully, everyone that's watched it who either knows me or doesn't know me has been like, oh, wow, you're not American. So that's a good
yeah, positive. Watching the movie, I couldn't have told by your voice.
Wow.
If I didn't see the London title card up front, I wouldn't have guessed.
Wow.
Yeah, you did a great job. Julian, too.
You did. Both of you did. Wonderful. I think it was always, that's the thing that I was worried about, was can we turn England into America? And it relied a lot on the accents and the performances. And as soon as I got those two actors on board, I knew we could do it.
Okay, yeah, because that was something else I wanted to ask, is where was it shot? Because with, all the lockdown protocols, it probably would have been hard for you to get a crew over, not to mention insanely expensive to go to like LA to shoot something. Yeah. So we shot it in various parts we shot it in London, we shot it in St. Albans, which is just outside London as well. And we just had to find locations. I spent hours on Google Maps, just finding locations that were American.
And even with the indoor locations, we found American diners or whatever. And then for the bank, that's just the office, and we actually had a really great production designer, and she just went in there, she just turned it into a bank. So yeah, on the wall, I think the bank's called Woodrow Bank, which is obviously a nod to one of your presidents, who wasn't very good. So yeah, it's just little things like that just add to the atmosphere.
Yeah, very cool. Because when it first started, it was just in the bank. I was like, oh, it's going to be like a bottle movie. Like, we're in the bank. And
I should have done that.
It's like, no, we're out in the world.
Yeah, I should have done that. It would have been a lot easier.
A lot easier for you, right?
Yeah, a lot cheaper as well. But I don't think that would have held up. It would have been like a 45-minute movie, and it would have been a bit boring.
Right.
So, yeah, let's add a little bit of spice in there, but it got a bit too spicy, and we ended up shooting a lot of stuff outside the bank, which I think it adds to the film.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The one thing, and it might sound weird, but the one thing that I was like, maybe they did shoot in America was the car scenes.
Yes.
Because I feel like our car culture is so much different than your car culture.
Yes, very much so. And I think if you actually see how that shot actually really looks, you'll be quite shocked. We had to do a bit of work on that. So, yeah, I mean, stuff like that just adds to the illusion. And, even again, the diner, I think a lot of people have seen it and gone, oh, that's from Pulp Fiction. It's not. It's not from Pulp Fiction. It's just a diner is cool and a diner looks American. So I just chose that location.
That's awesome. I love all the little details and things you put into it, because you totally pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, but that was not the intention of the movie. So
no, not at all. Yeah, not at all. I mean, the intention was to entertain, but I wanted it to be in America. So like you said, there's little things we had to do to just make it seem as American as possible. And I think, especially with the actors, if the accent slips, and maybe it does a couple of times, but I think you're so immersed in what's going on, you don't even notice it. And, the two central actors, Ellie and Julian, who's not here, were just tremendous. And, they really kept the fire in the room burning.
Yeah, for sure. Ellie, being relatively new, I guess you've been going for a decade now acting, so I guess you're not all that new. But was it intimidating to be carrying, like, you and Julian are really carrying like 90% of the movie, just the two of you?
Yeah.
Was that an intimidation factor, or was that a challenge you wanted to take on?
Yeah, 100%, bit of both. Intimidating, exciting, scary, a challenge, all of the above. It was, and I think as well, kind of coming into the project, I was aware from then reading, when I got cast, reading the full script, that I was going to be kind of the only young person. So that as well in itself was quite like, come on, Ellie, step up. Like, you've got to do this, because you're working with like P's and pros, and you want to kind of keep up and carry it, I guess, because if any part of Madison and mine and Julian's relationship had like slipped a little bit, it would have been a completely different movie. Because I remember when me and Julian met for the first time, we were both really nervous about meeting each other, because I think when you're going to have to work so closely with someone and it is going to be so intense, you're like, please let us get on. Please let us right. Please let it be easy, so that then the relationship can just build. And it was exactly that. We knew from like our first conversation that we worked the same kind of way. We were the same kind of actors in terms of, we both kind of tried to make it really fun, which sounds really stupid because it's very intense and people would think we'd be in that 24/7, and we were when we needed to be, but it would have been so kind of damaging to, I think, the whole film story if we were just constantly like not speaking to each other and actually disliking each other, because there are so many little moments like kind of halfway through that scene where we kind of become friends and we're like very up close and personal with each other. That was Ellie and Julian. That wasn't just Madison and White. That was us together building our relationship together. So yeah, I think it was really intimidating coming on thinking, oh my God, what if we don't get on? What if this all goes up in the air? It was a massive risk, and it always is when you come onto a project that's intense. It's a huge risk, but thank goodness it paid off.
For sure. Was that a part of the casting process? I forget the exact term for it. Something like chemistry read or something like that?
We didn't do a chemistry read. We did a rehearsal beforehand. I always think that if you have two really good actors, they will perform. They may not get on out of set, but they will perform on set. And I just felt that I had two really strong actors, and they just really going to work really well together. And what I loved about Ellie's the way she approached the role was she came into the role a bit like, you know, Bruce Lee's mantras, like be like water. And that's what she was like. She was very much like that. She had the script, she knew the build of the script, but she could play with it. She was playing with it, and that really set her apart from anyone else. I always feel like as a director, you feel really confident if an actor can just play with the dialogue and play with what's going on and add a little bit more, because I could get anyone to just read the script and, you know, put a dramatic performance in, but she kind of, you know, added layers to the character. And I feel like both characters are central characters. I don't feel like either of them are supporting characters. I feel like they're both central characters, and she really adds to it by being a great actress.
Thank you.
With the background work, because you kind of went into some Ellie, you went into some detail about your accent, and you did a lot of background there. Did you also do a lot of background work on who she was, where she came from, what she wanted to get out of the situation?
Oh my God, yeah. Like, so speaking of kind of the way we filmed it, all the kind of backstory of my character. So the stuff with like my mum, the audition stuff, we did all that before. And then my main bulk was that bank scene that we did. Right, like that was our final thing we shot. So I kind of had 2 weeks from doing the backstory stuff to coming up to the leading in of the big bulk of the story. And in those 2 weeks, it was just constant conversations, constant Zoom meetings, just writing down so many notes and kind of going through the script. And I think figuring out a real point of kind of character switch, that was really key for me. And I didn't want to make her this, like, she is a precocious teenager, but I didn't want to make her unlikable, because she keeps coming back. She kind of ends it and she starts it. So she doesn't go. So I didn't want people to be like, oh, for God's sake, here she is again. I wanted them to like her and to empathize with her and actually realize that she's so complex, and kind of your heart bleeds for a bit. Like, you can see that all the kind of precociousness is just a guard for what's actually going on in her old little noggin. So yeah, there's a lot of constant just kind of thinking so out of it and thinking how she got there, what her childhood was like, what her relationship with her mum, her dad, who's mentioned but is not in it. All those things that aren't mentioned in the film but are so key to her being. And I literally was Madison on that shoot. There was, apart from when I came off and was Ellie, but that, like, I was just her. And there were so many things that happened that in scenes that I just added and we didn't kind of think would happen, but I think it made it really, really interesting and kind of switched up scenes in different ways. Same with June as well. There were things he did that were very unexpected. And it kind of provoked us to react spontaneously, which is essentially what their relationship is. Everything that happens is so unexpected to them. Like, he kind of forgets he's got this hostage and is like, you're still here? Oh my goodness. She is kind of trying to test him. So there's constant spontaneity. So yeah, that was really fun to kind of bring to life.
Yeah, it's always cool to hear that those kind of things are as organic as a viewer you want them to be.
Yeah.
I think so go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, to add to that, like, organic is the key word, because they could have followed the script and just gone through and read the dialogue, but it would have been fine. But we don't want fine. We want better than fine. And I think both actors, I like giving the actors the room to maneuver within the character. And yeah, they both, especially in the room when we were in there 24/7, just really intense. Like she said, you were Madison. And there's moments where I was like, that is Madison. Like, she's become Madison. It's kind of scary to watch as well.
Scary to play.
Was shooting the background stuff before the bank, was that intentional for the backstory, or did your schedule just happen to work out that way?
No, that was intentional. So you wanted to shoot everything outside the bank beforehand, not because of chronological order, but because that was going to be a really intense week, 7 days that we were going to spend in that room. And if we shot that beforehand without warming up a little bit in terms of acting, in terms of camera, in terms of just everything. I feel like, as an audience member, you're watching that for 90% of the time. And if it's ropey and raw and not quite there, you are going to notice that a lot more than the other stuff, which we can get away with. And it's also, there's an artistic choice that we made inside the bank where it's kind of handheld and everything's kind of moving. And and I think that needed to be done over a stretch of time. And it just felt right to do it after the rest of the stuff.
Ellie, as an actor, did you find that beneficial that you got to not only your own homework on creating the character, but you got to see Marcus's interpretation of the character before you really had to fully be the meat of the movie?
Yeah, completely. It was so helpful, and kind of like he knew this character inside and out. So it was so helpful to have us kind of both there who knew her so well to kind of share and collaborate and think, oh, this could work, or this isn't going to work, or let's try this and see what happens. It was so collaborative. And I literally have always, like, I'm in awe of Marcus's brain. Like this, like what this man created is just, it's genius. Like, you are a genius.
Thank you.
So it was great to bring that to life and have those conversations on and offset completely.
Totally.
Marcus, have you done any acting?
Not really. I mean, I did a rehearsed reading for one of my friend's stage plays once, and at high school, I did a couple of drama classes, but no, not really. I prefer to be behind the camera myself.
It just seems like your whole approach is like, this is better for the actor. Oh, we'll get a better performance out of the actor. Oh, it's gonna be easier for the actor.
No, I'm obsessed with acting. I'm obsessed with the craft of acting. And when I mention all those heist films, the things that I remember from those films are the actors. Even if they have like a small role, like I love Philip Seymour Hoffman, who was in a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson's films, but he always played kind of the second, until his last film, he played all the secondary roles, and he'd done it so perfectly. I'm just obsessed with the craft of how actors get to that point where they are almost untouchable. So I'm always thinking about how an actor what's the best environment for an actor to achieve the best? Because I think when you watch any film, the first thing you'll say is the acting wasn't very good, or the plot wasn't very good. But if you watch a film where the plot's not very good, but the acting's very good, then I'm not that dissatisfied. Like I watched Kirsten Stewart's latest film, which I can't remember what it's called, and it's called it's about a film about Diana, which I didn't. Spencer. Yeah, I didn't particularly like the film in its totality. I appreciated it, but her performance was worth the watch. So I'm very much an actor's director in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach because for all the reasons you just gave, that's the what's facing the audience. That's what the audience is seeing.
Exactly. I think as an audience member, you immediately propel yourself towards the actors and the characters because you can identify with them. Whereas you don't, as a normal audience member, you don't care about the camera work and the dialogue so much, and sometimes the story. Unless you're watching a superhero film, you always look at the performances and you go, okay, that person's good, that person's not as good. I like making sure that all my actors give the best they can do before they leave set.
Yeah, that's great. For the release of Blonde Purple, I think got it right that time.
Yeah.
Were you able to see this with a live audience at any point?
Yeah, I saw it with Ellie and the rest of the cast and the crew before we even sold it, and the atmosphere was really all of us. I was sweating as well. It was an electric atmosphere, and obviously it's different because it's cast and crew, so they're going to like it anyway, regardless. But I've not had a chance to watch it with an audience just yet. However, it did just get into a film festival in America a few days ago, and they're doing a potential live performance of that. I'm obviously not going to go to America, but it'd be good for an audience to see it.
Yeah. I always like hearing that you did get to see it, even if it's cast and crew, but you guys got to see it together. You weren't just all at home on your laptops and then texting each other after.
Exactly. Yeah, that would have been lame. That would be very lame.
Right.
All on Zoom like, yay!
Yeah. Bravo.
You might not be able to give names, but are there any other possibilities on film festivals coming up? Maybe ones that you could attend?
No, not in the UK. We just yesterday won a couple more awards for the New York Movie Awards, which is cool. And then the film festival that's coming up is called the Denton Black Film Festival, which I don't know. I think it's in Denton. Do you know what Denton is? I don't know what Denton is.
I don't.
Somewhere in America. And it's up for a few more festivals as well. So we'll see if we get into those. But it'll be good, like you said, it'd be good to see it with a neutral audience who don't have, like we had an idea of what was going to happen in each scene because we read the script. It'd be good to see it with an audience and see what the reaction is.
Yeah, for sure. See where they laugh where you want them to, or where you want them to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I know we're getting close to half an hour, but I also wanted to ask the soundtrack. Did you write to the soundtrack, or the soundtrack come later? Because it fits perfect.
It does. It came later. I always knew that I was going to use. I don't particularly like scores that much. Well, mood scores. I don't like telling the audience you should feel this way at this moment in time. So I always had the idea of using older music, and I did do a bit of research beforehand about where I can get it, because licensing old tracks is very expensive. And I managed to find a website where you can get licensed old tracks quite cheap. It's not that cheap. It's actually quite expensive still. So I didn't actually shoot the scenes with the exact music in mind, but I always knew there would be like music from an age for each scene, rather than music that makes you want to cry, or music that makes you happy, or because I feel that's really corny, and it just really doesn't. It brings the quality of the production down a little bit. But I'm glad you noticed. Oh
yeah, you had some big songs there. I'm like, wow, this must have been like the entire budget.
I don't want to say no.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. Can you tell everybody where they can see Blonde Purple, and anything else you want to plug, your socials, anything else you want to point them to? Ellie, why don't you start?
So you can watch it digitally on Amazon. You can watch it on Apple TV, Xbox, Vudu. I'm trying to think if I missed anything else.
Google Play, YouTube Movies.
There you go. Yeah. All of the above. You can find me over on Instagram and TikTok, which is Ellie.Bindman. It's very simple. It's just my name with a dot in the middle.
And yeah, like Ellie said, you can watch it on those platforms. Hopefully you can watch it in a few film festivals soon as well. And I'm just on socials as Marcus Flemmings with a double M and an S. And yeah, if you do watch it, drop us a message. We will respond. And if you've got any questions, we will get back to you.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much. Congratulations on the movie. It was awesome.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
I'd like to thank Marcus and Ellie one more time for taking their time to come on the show to talk to me about Blonde Purple. Once again, I love this movie. It is available now on VOD, so check it out. You can see what I'm talking about. You will not be disappointed if you like fun movies, awesome soundtracks, cool cars, heists, and movies of the 90s. I mean, if you don't like any of those things, I don't know why you're watching videos on, a YouTube video on about movies anyway. So thanks again to them. Congratulations on an awesome movie. That's Blonde Purple, available now. Also, make sure you like and subscribe. We have a lot more interviews, a lot more new movie coverage, more screeners, all that kind of stuff coming your way. We're really going to kick things up for 2022. You're not going to want to miss out. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. So wizardpodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All the accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, a good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series. It's called Social Studies, slice of life, comedy, done in the style of the 90s cartoons that we grew up on and love. We write it like a sitcom. We draw it out like storyboards. We have a ton of fun with it. We've been getting great feedback so far. We just ran an Indiegogo campaign for it. There's 7 issues available right now, and come January, issue 8 is available, and we're kicking off our second chapter, so we have 6 more issues, number 6 being a bonus size, coming your way. Plenty of story, plenty of entertainment. Find all that at socialstudiescomic.com. Thanks.